Hey everyone, it's Dr. Romani. Welcome back to this YouTube channel on narcissism and narcissistic relationships. So here's a question for today. How do we spend time with folks who haven't been through narcissistic abuse themselves? If you have any thoughts on that question, drop them in the comments. How do you do it? How does that work out for you when you're spending time with folks and now that you've been through it? What does that feel like? Have you ever had the experience of sharing your experience of a narcissistic relationship with someone who hasn't been through it, and then you get sort of a blank stare back? What does that feel like? Because for lots of people, it can take the shame and the isolation of the narcissistic relationship and make it feel so much worse. And just as a brief aside, this video gets at stuff that is very relevant to healing, but there's limits on what you can do in terms of healing on a YouTube channel. If you want a much more robust deep dive into healing, hit that link in the video notes. Would love to have you join us for the healing program I have, which is a monthly program, but just a thought on that. So let's talk about that. This is the idea, though. It's not simple. It's not as simple as to divide the world into three camps, right? The narcissistic folks, the people who have survived narcissistic abuse, and the people who have not been through it. I know there's a sense in survivors of, now that I get it, I don't know how to be with or hang out with people who don't. And there are a few reasons for this, so let's break this down a little bit. First, within the world of people who haven't been through that, through narcissistic abuse, we can really further divide them into two groups. There are those who have been through it, but they actually don't realize they've been through it. And those who actually have never been through it. Now let's go, that first group is tricky because in that group, there may be enablers or they may be people who are in such denial that they will deny your experience. The second group is tricky because they simply do not have a template for this. And in a way, they come from a place of what I call psychological privilege. These are the people who won the human lottery. They were born into a family surrounded by love and encouragement and support and consistency and safety and freedom from abuse. That actually does happen for some people. These two groups, though, are different. The ones who are going through it but aren't aware, they have the risk of really minimizing what a survivor is going through, because they want to protect their own narrative, because that's how denial works, right? So they're acting like their relationship is good, but you can see that their relationship is toxic. It can actually kind of feel a little bit triggering for you to watch someone else get narcissistically abused. I find it very unsettling to watch other people get narcissistically abused. And then that person, though, may actually turn around and tell you that, well, maybe you read your own situation wrong. It can feel enabling. It can feel messy. So those folks are not always going to be good for you, especially in the acute stages of healing. The other group, the psychologically privileged ones, that group gets interesting. I do know a few people like this, not many, but a few. Life just worked out for them. They had the luck of having parents who loved each other, the luck of having enough resources so that the family wasn't stressed out about money, the luck of having two parents who weren't narcissistic or dependent or enablers or just checked out, the luck of having decent or loving siblings, the luck of good health, the luck of finding a loving, non-narcissistic supportive partner, the luck of having healthy children. Luck! Lots of luck. These are often can be nice people, just nice people. They better be, after all, the way everything's kind of gone their way, right? But they literally do not have the chip in their brain that allows them to process this ugly mess of narcissism and what it does to people. They often hold hope for change in others. They may have very optimistic outlooks. They may believe in justice and the fundamental premise that life is fair. Your psychologically privileged friends may listen, they may be kind, they may do nice things with you, for you, but ultimately they're just not going to get it. It's foreign to them. It doesn't compute. It's unique about narcissistic abuse. As a result, many survivors may feel a sense of shame or even a mild sense of dissociation when they are around people who have actually not been through narcissistic abuse. Survivors of narcissistic abuse often carry this sort of strange, unwanted burden of being truth tellers. After experiencing really toxic relationships, survivors of narcissistic abuse become sort of living proof of how badly people can treat each other. And when you are around people who simply haven't seen or experienced this, it can create friction, tension, and discomfort. In simplest terms, people who have survived narcissistic abuse are reluctant walking monuments to injustice, reminders that life is glaringly unfair, that bad guys win, good folks lose, and the karmic scales don't always equal out, and that we live in a society that keeps enabling, emboldening, and cheering the antagonistic and manipulative folks on. That said, these folks who haven't been through it, they may try to meet you halfway. Bless them, they may. And they may not shame you or blame you, but both of you silently come to the understanding that you've been through something that they fully won't get. A truly empathic person will do their best to meet someone where they are at. And in that way, you can still navigate these friendships. If, however, there's still a lot of head scratching from them and are you suring and benefit of the doubting, take a gentle step back. Maintain those boundaries, because such friendships may evoke shame, especially at times of vulnerability. And if you are a psychologically privileged person and just happen to be watching this video, please just make sure you hold space for folks who have been through this. I hope it doesn't happen to you. Empathy doesn't require having been through something the same as someone else. It simply requires holding space for another person's experience, respecting it, and never doubting it, simply because you want to preserve your version of reality. Love means being present with another person's uncomfortable experience, and to do so with acceptance, even if it's at odds with your worldview and what you believe to be true about the world. Sadly, with each passing day, the community of folks who have survived at least one significant narcissistic relationship grows. So you are in good company if you're in the survivors of narcissistic abuse group. I'm actually sitting here, and as I am thinking about this video, I just was randomly going through the people in my own life. And I was thinking, it kind of comes down to 50% yes and 50% no in terms of who have been through narcissistic abuse. And in that 50% of people in my life who have been through it, 50% of them get it, and 50% of them don't. So only 25% of people I know who've been through it get it. Survivorship is a process, and as you get stronger, you will feel a bit more steadfast in the midst of the folks who haven't been through it or who don't get it. You will feel more clear in your experience. You'll hold your ground, work through the shame, and have more solid boundaries. But all of us, even survivors who are 30, 40, 50 years in, will find that there are moments of sadness, weakness, setbacks, vulnerability, when those boundaries need to be higher. Survivors of narcissistic abuse carry a lifelong legacy of having to be their own protectors going forward, of having to gatekeep and be discerning and watchful, to set boundaries and take the time we need, to not throw caution to the wind. It's not a luxury that survivors have. More people in your life than not don't fully understand narcissistic abuse, so this can feel like a lonely process and at times bring up shame. But take a minute. Look at the comments of this or any other video. They're a reminder that you aren't alone. So thanks again.